The Feast of Tabernacles, Part 2. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Luke 2:7. Joseph and Mary took the child and flew to Egypt, and remained there until they were told by God that Herod was dead. Joseph and Mary brought the baby Jesus into Jerusalem 40 days from his birth, for Mary's purification and the child's dedication. According to Torah, this had to be done within 40 days of the birth of a male child. Not doing so is considered a sin. Later in his life, Yeshua celebrated his birthday on a mountain with 3 of his disciples. In contrast to birthday parties such as Herod's, where people were killed for entertainment, his was a celebration of life. On the festival of Sukkoth, Moshe and Elijah, from centuries past, representatives of the Torah and of the prophets, appeared and talked with Yeshua. One disciple, Kepha, Peter, suggested building 3 Sukkoths for Yeshua, Moshe, and Eliyahu, because it was required for the festival, but he did not understand that these 3 were fulfilling that which the festival symbolized. They were dwelling in their Sukkoth, temporary tabernacles of flesh, awaiting their eternal resurrection temples. These fall festivals speak of a future time when men will again tabernacle with God, when He will dwell with them and they with Him. Revelation 21:3. They speak of a day in which all nations will gather to Jerusalem. Zechariah 8:22 and 14:16. Curiously, even in the days to come, Bible prophecy tells us that people from the nations of the world will come up to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles with the Jewish people in Jerusalem. Zechariah 14. This stage is being set and prophecy is being fulfilled. The coming up, Aliyah in Hebrew, is taking place now in Jerusalem, with the massive influx of Jews from over 100 nations. Christians also are already visiting the land in record numbers. The majority of pilgrims coming to Israel are Christians. We believe this is all in preparation and building for future scriptural events. It may be that Jesus will ultimately fulfill the Feast of Tabernacles at His second coming. There will be a literal rest for planet Earth and all its inhabitants. Until then, we can find rest in our souls. Most Bible scholars agree that tabernacles represents the beginning of the millennium. We should look forward expectantly to the Feast of Tabernacles, just as we look forward to the coming of the Messiah, to bring His government, His kingdom, His laws. See Micah 4:1. Tabernacles and Passover are the only holidays mentioned in the millennial worship. Ezekiel 45:21 through 25 and Zechariah 14:16. Note that the number of days between Nisan and Tishri is always the same. Because of this, the time from the first major festival, Passover in Nisan, to the last major festival, the Feast of Tabernacles in Tishri, is always the same. Could this have any connection to Christ's birth during Tabernacles and His death on Passover? Hosea 6:3 explains Christ will come as the latter and former rain. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know the Lord, His going forth is prepared as the morning, and He shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth. The spring holidays are during the former rain, and the fall holidays are during the latter rain. Zechariah chapter 14 introduces the millennial age. The chapter tells of the liberation of Jerusalem and how the Messiah will be king over the whole earth. It ends with all nations keeping the laws of the Most High. The Feast of Tabernacles, the great feast, which symbolizes the very presence of Yeshua, the Messiah, he is the very tabernacle of God, will be kept by all nations of the world. Jesus celebrated the Feast of Tabernacles. He taught in the temple on the Feast of Tabernacles. On the last day and greatest day of the Feast of Tabernacles, the day the rabbis poured the water, Jesus stood, calling special attention to his message, and proclaimed himself the very fountain of living water in John 7:37 and 38. The Feast of Tabernacles on the Jewish calendar is Tishri 15 through 22. Our calendar, September or October. It's a fall festival. Scripture, Leviticus 23:39, 2 Chronicles 3:13, Ezra 3:4, Zechariah 14:16. Significance: Tabernacles speak of the day when the Son of God will tabernacle among men, wipe away every tear, and bring in the golden age, which men have dreamed of since time immemorial. This concludes our study of the Feast of Tabernacles.